Hello, Colts Nation, and what's up, No Horsing family? Welcome back to an episode of the No Horsing Around podcast. As always, we're two dudes talking Colts in season.
Yes,
So,
sir.
I, I'm just excited. I'm kind of sit there with my words. I'm going to let Zach take it for just a second too.
Hey, it didn't take long. And what Nick Cross, right off the bat, we saw that awesome highlight reel already picking off Matt Ryan. And that's pretty encouraging, Stephen. I mean, that's pretty encouraging to see a young rookie out there. And I know that when we watch training camp, it's overreaction season. There's no doubt about it. We're going to get high on people, and we've had training camp superstars before that didn't even make the football team. Um, Nick Cross is not going to be one of those guys. He's definitely going to be in the mix for a starting position. We had the thing on yesterday with the training camp kickoff with George Bremer, who was nice enough to be on, even though that his visual didn't work. He still did the audio for us. Wanted to give a quick shout to Gary Thompson. Man, thank you so much for hopping in. You're number one today. You rang that bell, Gary Thompson. You hit number one today on the No Horsing Around live stream. Guys, let's get it going. Let's have a good talk. Let's have a good conversation. We want to know in the comments. I'm going to be watching the comments. I'm trying to interact with you as we go. Who is the one player this year in training camp that you, Colts Nation, No Horsing Around family, is most excited about seeing? And I'll start it off, and then, Steven, I'd like to hear from you. I'm most excited about seeing a guy who every single person has seemed to be, having all this, including yours truly, Stephen Burton. Yannick Ngakwe has been awesome with the fan base, has just been unbelievable in his interactions and just wanting to embrace this community. And it's been a long time since we've had a superstar who just literally from day one hit the ground running and said, hey, I'm happy to be a Colt. And damn it, I want to stay here. I want to lock up this long-term deal, and I want to get it done, man.
Yeah, I mean, everybody knows how excited I am about him. I mean, and how excited are we just in general to where, I mean, everybody's checking their phones throughout the day. I mean, you can even go back to yesterday on,
Yeah.
you get excited about, hey, there's a new number one linebacker. I don't know if you've heard of him. His name's Shaq Leonard.
Shaq Leonard,
So,
man.
I mean, I'd
I
love to
didn't
hear what
know
people think about that too. I mean, you're
how
dissecting things
wild.
like that. We're talking about, and gone. I've listened to the radio, and Zach, you'll appreciate this. And we're talking about all these different things. You're talking about how is Matt Ryan going to do the contract for Kenny Moore, Yannick, and everything like that. That all goes away. It was Pat McAfee, I think, that said that's all noise now. The season started. That's all
Yeah.
background noise. It's time to go.
Yeah, I mean, and to come back and double around on, I mean, Matt Ryan started off, it looks like in that first set, 5 for 5. I mean, pretty accurate. We didn't get a lot of footage. I think they had to move indoors today. We had a little bit of a, kind of a crappy day weather-wise here in Indy. It's just doom and gloom, especially the first part of that day. And look there's it's Fredo, man. Colts gang. I like that. Fred Dro, my man. Just super exciting to see that, Matt Ryan made a cool comment saying, basically if they don't listen, you just stick a foot up their ass, man. I mean, that's just,
Yeah.
funny and in jest, but also being serious too. Like he's a leader, and you could tell he has control of that room. And when he talks, you've heard veterans already say, when Matt Ryan speaks, we listen. I mean, it's just that simple. My man Fredro, appreciate you being in. Hey, Fredro, who do you want to see going as far as Colts training camp? Who's the guy you're most excited about seeing? Throw it in the comments. And let's get a good, healthy discussion going about it. Gary, as well, if you're still here, who are you most excited about seeing in Colts training camp as well? Stephen, question for you.
Yeah.
We talked about it a little bit last night with George Bremer on the podcast, the training camp kickoff. George Bremer, nice enough to join us. Training camp battles, are there any that you're looking for? I mean, I love the training camp battles, man. I love seeing those guys fight for that job, earn that position. Do you have one for you personally, one Stephen Burton that he said, I'm going to keep my eye on this training camp battle?
I mean, probably. There's so many. I'm not going to say so many, but there's a good amount to look at. Your left tackles one, but probably one I'm keeping a really close eye on. It's going to sound weird. Is wide receiver number 2.
Okay.
Not necessarily further down, but who emerges? I mean, is it going to be a Paris Campbell? I mean, we owe Alec Pierce looked amazing today. He seemed to be lockstep with Matt Ryan throughout practice. He had the big catch over the middle. Is he number 2? I mean, it's not the most crucial of position battles that we're looking at, but it's one that's interesting to me because the talk all offseason has been the wide receiver room, the depth at the receiver room. Is it deep enough? Is it veteran enough? Are they ready to step up? And so I'm really interested to see, do these veterans fight back and fight off, Alec Pierce, or does he take the number 2? Does Paris Campbell step in? Do we see someone, completely random? Is it Ashton Doolin?
Yeah.
Who, if everyone remembers, who's watched this show long enough, I called to be cut last year.
Yeah. Or what if it's a guy who isn't even on this football team right now? How crazy would that be? I mean, like a guy that we bring in, maybe a veteran. What about an OBJ, type of guy later on down the road? T.Y. Hilton. Gary says, Jelani Woods. I mean, dude, my antennas are super high for Jelani. I think Gary, I don't know if you watched this because it was in the kind of the doldrums of the offseason. I predicted the Colts to pick. It's a little, pat on my back. I predicted us to draft him in the 3rd round. That was on the preview. If you want to go back and listen to it, I swear.
Day before the draft, I believe. Was when we did that preview.
And we did a mock draft, and I picked Jelani Woods. I wanted him to be here. That's how high I am on him. How excited!
I feel like we should point out that PFF gave you a horrible grade on that pick too.
Like a D, right?
It was not a. We were sitting there just staring at it. They gave a horrible grade.
It was my worst grade of the whole mock draft, and it was the one that I hit on. And Gary saw it.
Gary saw it. He saw it.
It's so good. Oh, hey, listen, Fredro he's anxious about Matt Ryan completion percentage. Is bound for improvement from last season. Fredro, I would agree with that. I mean, you got to look back at what he did with Kyle Pitts last year as being a rookie, but he didn't have a lot of talent to throw the football to last year. I mean, that team was pretty stripped, if you ask me. I'm not worried about the accuracy. I'm just worried about our line, protecting, holding up well like they have been over the past several years, and then just giving him that time. But those young receivers, I just want to see how he develops with some of those young guys. I don't know. I still think that when it's all said and done, Steven, I still think that we might bring a veteran back in. I know we signed a couple guys, journeymen, day before camp just to bring them in. Not sure that they're going to necessarily compete for a starting position, but hell, what do I know? I mean, I'm not Chris Ballard. I'm not a great scout like he is. But we'll see. I mean, we'll see. As far as that goes. But I think Matt Ryan has done all the right things, said all the right things. Now it's time to go out there and prove that he can do it to you, man. Look at this. Salute to you from Baltimore. Football is back finally. Come on. Let's go.
Yes, this is my guy. Last time we did a live stream, Ravens 76 B More, he was on here repeatedly. Yeah. He might be the one member of Ravens flock that doesn't hate me.
That's so funny.
It's a possibility.
A question for you, question for Ravens. Are you a big Engraven video fan? Do you like Engraven's YouTube channel? Because if you've never watched it, you've never checked it out, we had them on last year. It blew up on our YouTube channel. I think, Steven, over 7,000 views.
Yeah.
I'd have to feel like if you're a Ravens fan, you love Engraven vids. And as a Raven fan, salute. Gary Thompson's Saturday camp is sold out. 100%.
There's your answer real quick right there. Yes, sir, he is.
I will be there at the Saturday camp, Gary. I got those media credentials, and it's because of cool people like you, that decide to follow along, give us a platform to use our voices and just talk about what we love and our passion, which is the Indianapolis Colts. So I'll be down there. I will have a little bit of media availability. Gary, question for you. If I'm going to get a question with a coach, coordinator, and a player, throw a question out, man. I will save it in this comment box, and I will remember to ask that. And if I can get video footage, we'll come back and we'll shout you out, and we'll double back around next week, and just let them know that, obviously I'm not going to tell them this was Gary's question, but we'll give you the shout out next week and say, hey, Gary, got an answer to your question, man. So that's super
Absolutely.
cool. Van Camp, man, thank you so much for stopping by. Hey, what do you think about Coltsnation this year, man? What do you think about Coltsnation? Do you think we're going to have are we going to win the AFC South? I want to know from Van Camp, are we going to win the AFC South? I want to know from
already
every
talking
single
one day
person
into
in this
camp
chat right now, will we win the AFC South?
Hey, and really quickly, you guys, for everyone who's flooding in here, thank you guys so much for jumping in here. We always say it earlier, but I want to jump in. If you're in here, this is the first time you're in here. Thank you guys so much. Give it a like, share it later, subscribe, and ding the bell so you're the first one into the chats when we do these. We're going to do these kind of throughout training camp, and obviously into the season. We'll have some fun ones too. For those who have been around a long enough time, they know that we bring in people like an Ing Ravens for you. We bring in people like the Jets Talk 24/7, who's been amazing. We already have some really good ones lined up for this year already, some big ones that you guys already know of. So make sure that you're subscribing. Make sure that and fill the chat. Fill the chat. This is when we go live. It's not for us. It's for you guys.
Absolutely.
We want to hear from you guys. We want to have great interaction with you.
Yeah, and if this is your first time listening, tuning in, one thing that is so special to us about this particular podcast, this Colts podcast, we've always prided ourselves on this is the voice of Colts Nation. This is the voice of Colts community. So we've always asked you to join our family and be a part of it. Like we are who we are. We're two guys. We get to do this because you guys hop on and just, ask great questions, and we get to meet so many cool people. We're asking more people to join our family. We're asking more people, to just use your voice. This is your opportunity. And as we get bigger, as we grow, as we have more opportunities, and, with that ability to be able to talk to the players and the coaches, your voice gets even stronger. Your voice gets even stronger. And Gary, he's already asked a question, and we're going to try our very best to go ahead and get something like that. Gary, I'm going to go ahead, and this is kind of, I don't know how this is going to work out, but I'm going to pull my camera out, and I'm literally going to I'm literally going to take a picture of your question, and I'm going to look down like a complete dork, and I'm going to ask that question on Saturday.
Well, Gary, I want to tell you this. You guys are not alone. So when we joke, when we get these times to ask questions to coaches and coordinators and things like that, don't think that we're like these professional people. We do totally, geek out and fan out sometimes. And a little peek behind the curtain is a lot of times coordinating positions, player positions, position coaches, we get a much better chance to talk with them. So there is a very decent chance that Zach is going to get to talk to his favorite Colts player of all time, which is one Reggie Wayne this year. So if you're going to make sure, ding the bell. So that episode, we all want to see how professional he is.
Yeah, you're going to see a man who literally like crawls back into his childhood as I'm standing up there talking to my favorite football player of all time, 87, and just see, it's really almost surreal, honestly, Stephen. It's pretty cool to get a chance to do cool things like that and then come back. And this is going to be a fun season, man. I mean, this is season 2 for us. Last year, we were literally two guys blind, just going at it, didn't have any structure on the show. We just wanted to get on here and just talk about football. And we always said, if one person listens, it's worth it, man. That's all that matters to us. And I think we've probably kept that same mentality as we've went along. Van Camp wants to know about, is Nick Cross already taking first team reps? So you got the McLeod issue going on. He did get taken off of PUP. I think they're going to split those first team reps right now. I did message George to see if he got some first team reps. The answer was yes. I didn't get clarification if he was the first guy on the field, but he did get some first team reps. Fredro, Titans, they lost Julio to Tampa. Now the number 1 spot in the AFC South is ours. Not did they just lose Julio, they lost A.J. Brown. I think that is a major mistake that they made. And they traded him for next to nothing. They didn't really get a whole lot for him in return, which is almost, unbelievable, unfathomable, but good for us. You got Tannehill. He's going to be thinking all season long. I got Malik Willis chomping on my heels here, trying to take my spot. And man, bro,
Well,
I'm telling you, AFC South. If we don't win the AFC South this year, we got a problem.
Interesting thing too is everyone knows I'm in Tennessee, so I hear them talk all the time. Already on the radio today, Malik Willis 7 for 7.
Yeah,
didn't hear any stats about how Tannehill looked. Malik Willis 7 for 7, didn't have one incompletion in his first drills.
I'm not going to be completely shocked. This might be a little bit of a hot take, but I'm not going to be completely shocked the second time that we play the Titans if Malik Willis is the starter. I mean, I'm going to say it right now. I think Tannehill only takes you so far. So just don't know how Vrabel wants to kind of maneuver that and handle that. But I think Tannehill only takes you so far, and they know that. That's why they drafted this guy who has the ability, super high ceiling. I'm a big draft nerd. I scouted the absolute hell out of this guy in the offseason with the anticipation that the Colts could, before we signed Matt Ryan, we might have an interest in a guy like that. Physically, he has every single tool that you would want out of an NFL player. Mentally, he's pretty strong. He's going to have to learn the NFL game and the speed of the NFL game. And if he can, the Titans, they hit on something. If he can do that, that's a big if. And well, now that he's a Titan, I hope he sucks.
Yeah, and a fun thing to talk about too, like as we mentioned Julio, for those who are like, oh, I can't believe Ballard. It looks like Ballard lied. I mean, Ballard never Ballard tells you everything without telling you anything. It was, in my opinion, it was probably an exploratory phone call more than anything. My guess is Julio wanted a lot of money, and Ballard was not going to pay that. So for Julio to come out today and be like, "Oh, they were one of the teams," yeah, we probably were. But once he said like, "This is my asking price," I doubt Ballard ever reached back out.
Yeah, and Ballard has to do his diligence. Any good general manager in the NFL is going to do their diligence. They're going to call, and there's obviously that direct correlation. Ballard doesn't have to go very far to ask about Julio, right? We all know about him anyways. All he's got to do is just go down the hall a little bit and start talking to Matt Ryan. Hey, what do you think about this guy? I, for one, think there's nothing left in Julio's tank. I could be wrong. I'm a big Julio fan. I thought Julio's had an incredible career. No doubt about that. Look at this crap coming in here, stealing us. We'll get that out of there. Sorry about that, guys. Thank you so much, though, just for being a part of this cool thing right now. And I want to get on the defensive side of the ball. I feel like we haven't given the defense any love at all so far, other than the Nick Cross shout out. So let's just start there. On the defensive side, is there any one player that you feel like, Steven, that it's time to take that next step, or maybe they won't? I think you got to think about a guy like Bobby Okereke, right? All these different name changes, by the way. We go from Okereke to Okereke. Now we go from Darius Leonard to Shaq Leonard. I mean, and Michael Brown makes a fantastic point. Julio would turn into Andre Johnson 2.0. I think that's probably fair. Hey, it is what it is. I just think his body has broken down at this point. I don't think he's going to be able to hold up. Maybe in a sparing role out there in Tampa, he has a solid season with Tom Brady. Maybe he gets a little extra juice, but who knows? Yeah, but I think Okereke. I think Okereke in a contract year is going to have to come out. And you want to talk about one of the training camp superstars. That guy looked incredible in training camp. Not to say he had a bad season, but I think Okereke's got a lot to prove. And if he wants to earn that big time contract, and we all know it's really hard for linebackers to earn that big contract. So that's my guy. I don't know if you have one in particular that you think, hey, it's basically time to shit or shine. What say you, Stephen Berman?
Well, and it's funny. I was going to say this with Okereke is he's low key. He led the team in tackles last year too. That's kind of where we sit with him. But I get exactly what you're saying with he's got to take that next step. For me, I'm probably going to go and it's not necessarily like, oh, this is you've not shown up, so now is the put up, shut up, shit, or get off the pot kind of thing. Isaiah Rodgers is
Yeah.
someone that I'm really looking at because he's going to step into truly, if you're going to classify Kenny Moore as the nickel corner, Isaiah Rodgers is stepping into that cornerback number 2. And we know that he's going to get a lot of looks. We talked about it on one of the last episodes where they're going to, if Gilmore shuts people down, they're going to go away from him, which means there's going to be more looks at Kenny. There's going to be more looks at Rodgers. And I think he's really, I think we talked about when we first started the show, he showed a ton of flash in the Buffalo game way back in the day. He showed speed. He was special teams, and everyone was chomping at the bit to see him get more reps on the defense. And we're going to get that now. And what's he going to do? Is he going to be able to kind of lock that in? Or are we going to be looking for a cornerback next year to pair with Gilmore?
I think he's a very good corner. I really do. I think he's a ball hawk. I think he's the type of guy. He just has that charisma, and he always feel like the Isaiah is just always in the right place at the right time, right? Like he's always there. And he's so different than any other guy that Chris Ballard normally goes for with his body type. He's not, the bigger physical guy. He's a little bit smaller in stature, but he's blazing fast. Like that's his his one true attribute. I think one thing that he falls in love with a little bit is trying to jump those routes and make that big play. He's going to have to really rely on technique if he wants to take that next step and say, hey, I'm going to be a starter in this league for a very long time. Every opportunity, in my opinion, for him to go out there and compete with Faison for that final third position at cornerback. Faison has a little bit of the upper hand because he knows the system that Gus Bradley's going to be installing, in training camp. But God-given ability, Rodgers, man, and you're so right. Like he has everything right now is laid out for Rodgers to be an NFL starting cornerback for the future, and probably a chance, here in the next couple of years to earn a nice contract and a chance to, really, really, really cash in on all of that. Ravens 76 said that the Colts and the Ravens will be top 5 defenses. Wow. I mean, that's a hot take right there. I mean, that's a hot take right there.
Well, everyone knows that we love to watch as much stuff as we can when it comes to it. I think it was on Good Morning Football. It might have been Mike Garafolo had the Colts as the number. He expects them to be the best defense in the NFL this season.
Wow, that is
so they're look. I mean, you start running through these additions. I was going to say this too. As we're saying names of like people to put up or shut up, there's one name that kind of came in my head, but neither one of us said it because I think that chance has passed. Is your boy Ben Banahu?
Oh my gosh!
I don't know if he makes it out of camp this year. You predicted that last year. He did make it through, but man, I mean the amount of talent that's come in just on the D line alone, and where he's at. I don't know where he's someone who last year was put up or shut up, and he essentially shut up.
Yeah. I think everybody who's ever listened to this podcast knows how I feel about him. Yeah, Ben Bana PU.
Ooh, that's a new one this year.
I don't know if he.
Should we get you a jersey with that on the back that says Bana who?
Yeah, exactly. Let's see. Gary Thompson says 4 picks would be nice for Rodgers this year. You know what? We can go back and look, but he had 3 or 4 last year. I think that's a good number right there. I mean, he had a pretty good season as well. Let's see. Harpoon Bakery chimes in with Michael Brown. That's a good comp. I would agree. I think that's pretty fair. 2 incredible athletes that happen to just at the end of their career, their bodies just wouldn't quite hold up. Julio was just the freak of all freaks. When it comes down to it. But, I truly, truly believe that the Indianapolis Colts, if we stay healthy, and that's a big fingers crossed, if we stay healthy, the Indianapolis Colts have a chance to make a serious run. And once you get in the playoffs, man, we've seen it, right? Like we've seen what happens if –
look at the Bengals last year.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you get in, and then absolutely, that's what happens. That's what happens, man.
So I was going to say Gary 4 is really spot on. So he had 3 last season, kind of really under the radar, a 3 pick season that not most of us really noticed. Harpoon, I love Harpoon. Comments on basically every video. We try to talk with him all the time. Ben Bannigan was just awful. I don't want to get started on him either. It's just time, and it probably is. I think last season was the season that we went into, and we had all these D ends and D linemen that we talked about. We wanted them to go get, and they didn't go get anybody. I think last season was the season where Ballard was like, "I want to see what the young guys have,"
Yeah,
and
yeah,
some of them had something. Quiddy Pay looks like he's refreshed. He looked good as a rookie. And but at the same time, Ben Banigou didn't show up.
yeah,
He had his opportunities. He was healthy scratches, and so it's going to be interesting to see what happens.
yeah. There's no doubt about it. And I just don't think. I think he's at every chance, but I almost look at him more, almost Steven, almost like a camp body when it comes down to it. I mean, I don't think that he even ultimately. I don't know. I don't know where his place is on this football team when it comes right down to it. I just don't know where he fits in. We just have so much depth and so much talent across that line. Yeah. If Banagoo wins in camp, we're in trouble. Laugh out loud, guys. We want to apologize. We've had some weirdo come in here and spam us a little bit with some of these comments. Just disregard that. Don't want that.
As they come in, we're kicking them out and blocking
Yeah,
them or
yeah.
putting them in
Trying,
timeout, trying to get them out of there as quickly as they're coming in. So
modern technology, it just kind of
some people don't deserve it.
Kind of hits that way. Fredro says chance for a serious run indeed. A serious run. I mean, I think that we've got a chance, and I've said this so many times, Stephen. The recipe for the NFL and the modern NFL is build a really good football team with a really good foundation, and then go out and get your veteran quarterback, right? Like Tampa Bay proved that. Obviously, he's a generational quarterback in Tom Brady. No one's ever won at any higher level than Tom Brady. As much as that makes me want to throw up in my mouth saying that, it's just the way it is. He's won so many big football games. But Matt Stafford, look at him. Never won a Super Bowl. Never really even had been to the playoffs on a consistent basis. What they do, put a really good football team around him inside of a really good organization that was willing to make some big sacrifices, big moves, and then lo and behold, Super Bowl champions. Come around 2022, Indianapolis Colts build an incredible foundation, go out and trade for Yannick Ngakoue. One thing that they have just struggled to have is a true blue pass rusher. Went out and got a cover corner in Stephon Gilmore, and then also, icing on the cake, Matt Ryan. So I feel like that this could be something very, very special.
Yeah, and that's the interesting thing too, is like what moves, we went into the offseason. What moves could you make? What are some of the moves that you needed to make? And he made all of them. He filled the holes that he needed to fill, the gaps that he needed to fill. I mean, and now it's put up or shut up. And I mean, I just want to say too, like when you're looking too, compare this season to last offseason, right? Compare this offseason to last one. And I know that people are going to say like, I was a big proponent of Carson Wentz. We sat on opposite sides of that. That was something that me and you disagreed on most of the season.
Yeah.
But the tone is different with Matt Ryan in the building. The tone of the team, how he carries himself, and really, you can look no further than for some reason I get Washington Commanders stuff now still, and their tone is the tone of Coltsnation last offseason, which is doing everything they can to convince themselves that he's going to be different for them.
Yeah.
And we're not in that position.
No.
No one is trying to say like, oh, Matt Ryan's got to be different than what he was. If Matt Ryan is what he has always been, that's a playoff caliber team. There's no reason this team shouldn't win the AFC South. There's no reason they shouldn't host a playoff game that Zach gets to go to, or any of you guys who live in Indy. There's no excuse because we also sit there and look and go, well, Houston's not much better than what they were. I'm still not sold on Trevor Lawrence. Everyone knows I think Trey Lance is the best quarterback out of that draft, and I it makes Zach roll his eyes, but I've compared Trevor Lawrence to Andy Dalton before, and go way back. You can hear why I say that, but and then the Titans. We all think that the Titans are taking a step back,
Yeah.
and I want to clarify. Like I don't hate the Titans as much as Zach does, but at the same time, a step back is a step back. They're not going to be the number one seed, and even here in Tennessee, they're saying that a
Yeah.
step back. They're primed to be the team with the biggest step back because you're not. They're I don't see them being the number one seed and being able to duplicate what they did last year. So the Colts are primed to make a run. Now you just you need to go and do it. You need to start fast and you need to go and do it.
Yeah, no doubt about it. It's super exciting for what we have coming up, guys, as far as this training camp. Great footage to come out as well. Steven and I are going to try to keep as plugged in as we can. And then as the season gets going, we're going to try to get on the same schedule that we did last year. We do the the instant reactions. We're going to try to introduce some cool new guests on here. So if there's somebody that you say, hey man, I really like listening to this Colts person, let us know, man. We'll try to get them on. We'll try to talk to them and interact with them just as well. Yeah, it's gonna be a fun season, Steven. There's so much to talk about. There's so much to just kind of unpack and to kind of go over as this training camp unfolds. And we're day one. I mean, like we were day one, and I can already feel the buzz and the excitement from Coltsnation already. Like I can just feel it as it's gonna kind of ramp up. Yeah, I mean that's it's going to be a special year. Fredro, do you all think likely that Taylor will go for a career high in yards this upcoming season? So that's great that you asked that question. We actually had a podcast. Are we podcasters or we're YouTubers? I guess now
We're YouTubers. We had an episode.
Yeah, we had an episode, kind of getting in and getting ready for training camp. We actually think his usage is going to be higher, but we think his yards might be slightly less just because there's not going to be a necessary need to use him. And, using him 30 times a game is great if you have to and when you need to. But I think they're going to spread it around a little bit. I think he's going to get opportunities. I think what you're going to see with Taylor this year is, and you already saw it today with one clip in training camp, I think Matt Ryan's going to identify that Jonathan Taylor is special just with the football in his hands. So he's going to throw the football to him. He's going to hand the football off to him. We're going to do everything we can to get the ball in his hands. I don't know if he breaks that 1,800-yard mark or not, just because I think his receiving yards go up. I really do. I think he's going to be a guy, and that's why he's everyone's number one fantasy guy. And I think that Jonathan Taylor has potential in any season to rush for 2,000 yards. I don't know if this season will be that year, but definitely. I mean, if the guy stays healthy, I mean, he is since college, he has been almost unstoppable at every level against the highest level of competition. No one's been able to stop him, and I don't expect that to slow down this year.
Well, and even opening press conference at training camp, he commented that he's preparing himself for I don't think he said it this way, but almost like a lesser role, less carries, lesser workload is how he's kind of prepping his head this year. And can we just say too, like I know you're talking about with the past, but the fact that they finally did something that we've all asked for, which was having him and Hines on the field at the same time.
Yeah.
And they're doing that in training camp means they could actually do it. Oh, Harpoon.
I like with first of all, I'm gonna jump ahead and then we're gonna hit on Harpoon. Okay. I like what Gary said. 1,500 on the ground, 500 in the air. I think that is just about spot on, honestly. I think that is just about spot on. I think he gets to 2,000 yards. I just think it's a combination of both. Love the way you're thinking there, Gary. Harpoon, could Taylor become the next Marshall Faulk? So I'm going to say no. From this standpoint, Marshall Faulk was just a generational pass catcher, and I don't think that there'll ever be the need to quite go that that heavy when you're talking about 80, 90 catches in a season, 70 catches for a running back. But I will say this, I think Taylor's probably a better runner than Marshall Faulk, like a pure runner. And when you want to talk about a guy who can just put his foot in the dirt and just take off and leave you, you'd be hard pressed to mention many people, at the start of their career who have been better when it comes to that.
Well,
Also, go ahead.
I was going to say, I was going to piggyback with you with Falk. It's funny. I was actually talking about him for some reason at my office the other day. And when you just look at his, it's easy to forget how good he was. But when you're looking at him in his prime, I wanted to pull it up because you are right. He is a generational pass catcher at running back. You're talking 80 plus catches, and then in a 4-year stretch, 900 yards, 1,000 yards, 800 yards, 700 yards receiving.
Yeah.
It's insane. It was an insane amount that he was able to catch the ball and how good he was. Because let's remember too, he wasn't lining up out wide a lot of times. He's taking swing passes.
Yeah.
So I mean, he was a different worldly kind of guy. And even if he's not like the next Marshall Faulk, that's not a knock. I don't know if there is a next Marshall Faulk.
Yeah, I mean that's fair, but I'll say this: he's the next Jonathan Taylor, man. Like that. That's just how good he is. Like he's the next guy to be known. I think when we look back in the NFL, 10, 12 years from now, we're gonna all as Colts fans say, "Wow, man, how good was that guy?" I can remember thinking, a few years ago, when Edgerrin was starting to talk about being in the Hall of Fame, I thought, man, how good was that guy when he was in his prime for the Colts? I think you're going to say the same things about Jonathan Taylor. Special runner, and I think he's a special human being as well. So, I mean, that's a big deal. Gonna be a great season when it comes to that part as well. Just following this journey. And I like the fact that we're not going to be on Hard Knocks this year. There's no distractions. That was cool to watch and see out, but I don't think I like the distraction. I think I like to see us go out and just do everything kind of blue collar behind closed doors and just go out and just worry about winning football games. So yeah, I mean, that's where I'm at with the Jonathan Taylor thing.
Yeah. I mean, I'm in agreement. He is such a special player to watch. And then, like you said, he's especially from what now, you always take the caveat, like we don't really know these guys, but from what you can see, he's a very special kind of human being too, with how he reacts. He fits well with what the Colts do, and he's super talented. So, I mean, it's one of those things where does he rush for 18, 1900 yards? Maybe not. But does he rush for 1,300 yards and 400, I think, and then 400 yards in receiving? I think we even mentioned, does he hit 16 touchdowns? He needs that to break the record. He doesn't have to get them all rushing. I think I have, 13 and 3, somewhere around there was my guess. So, I mean, he's a special kind of player. I think we should growing up Colts fans, and who are some of you who are out there who are older like me and Zach, we've gotten to watch some really, really special players from the beginning of their career to the end, from Peyton and Reggie and Marvin and Edgerrin, and then flipping around, my favorite player, Bob Sanders, although that didn't take a long time to watch his entire career, So regretfully so. So you got to do that.
Shout out to Marquise Beverly, man. Thank you so much for hopping on here. Great content, fellas. Hey, we appreciate that. Marquise, thanks for dropping by. And if you haven't already, join the No Horsing Around family. Tap in, hit that bell, and subscribe. Gary Thompson says, he hits top end speed faster than anyone I can remember, and he's 65 in a couple weeks. So that's high praise coming from Gary Thompson, who we well know is a really, really, really big Colts fan. I mean, he's not a guy who just he's not a novelist fan, is what I should say. He loves Indian. He loves the Coltsnation, and he's seen a lot of players come and go. So that's pretty.
Didn't he have, Zach, didn't he have the top 3 fastest runs last season? somewhere
Yes,
around there.
I believe that's accurate. Top 3 or 3 of the top 4. I can't remember that stat, but it was almost mind blowing. Like just how unbelievable this guy is when it comes. And he's a running back, man. He's not a wide receiver or a cornerback. Like, he's literally a running back. And to think that we got him in the second round. I mean, so the football gods were looking out for us. There's no doubt about that. Gary Thompson says Burt Jones. This guy here is going way back, my friend.
Jumped to the way back on that one, man.
Exactly. Well, guys, listen, we're getting ready to wrap up. Hey, Chris Jackson, thank you for coming in. He was first and second fastest speed. So there you go. Chris Jackson on the fact checking. He's running all of our boards on the background, hooking us up as a fan right there and letting us know first and second fastest speed. But before we hop off here, this has been fun. We want to do this more. We want to interact with you guys more. Feel free to keep the chat going. Steve and I always invite you guys to keep talking, keep going, and do whatever you need to do. Ask us as many questions, and we want to be involved in this community. So feel free to reach out to us on Twitter. I'm at Coltsnation 365. You can catch Steven out there on Twitter as well. Throw him your tag, Steven, and let him know. It's at Steven Burton 86.
86. Yeah, you can find me on there. And like Zach said too, you can keep the chat going. We'll see it. Contrary to popular belief, the chat doesn't have to end when the live stream ends. We'll see the comments. You still got questions. We respond. It'll be either myself or Zach, or sometimes we just let you guys go at each other in the comments. So keep it going throughout it. If you guys have anything or any questions, keep that going. Man, yeah, it's always fun. It's always a good time jumping on here and being able to do a live stream. I guess we'll wind it up, man. We kind of, like we always say, we end these things.
I want to do something just a little bit different this time, Steven. Just a little bit. Didn't mean to cut you off there. We always kind of end it and say, I love you, Steven loves you, and we're out. But today, such a great fan reaction, and I just want to kind of round that out and go a little bit heavier. I'd like to say, I love you, Steven loves you, Gary Thompson loves you, Chris Jackson loves you, Fredro loves you, and we are out. Thanks, guys.